A sunny acres morning. Sunlight, thick and honeyed, dripped through the gaps in the old barnwood, painting stripes across Benny's twitching nose. He snuffled, the scent of hay and morning dew filling his nostrils, and his whiskers vibrated with anticipation. Today was carrot day. He scrambled to his feet, a flurry of white fur and floppy ears, and bounded towards the barn door, his cottontail bobbing like a tiny pom-pom. The world outside was a riot of green and gold. Sunny Acres lived up to its name. Rolling hills patched with wildflowers, a babbling brook winding its way through the valley, and the gentle bleating of sheep in the distance. It was, Benny thought, the most perfect place in the world, especially on carrot day. He hopped past Mrs. Gable's prize-winning petunias, careful not to trample a single petal. Mrs. Gable, a plump, perpetually flustered hen, was fiercely proud of her garden. "Morning, Benny," she clucked, puffing out her chest. "Off to see Farmer McGregor already?" "Yes, ma'am," Benny chirped, barely pausing. "It's carrot day." Mrs. Gable chuckled, shaking her head. "That rabbit and his carrots. Honestly, you'd think he'd never seen one before." Benny, however, had only carrots on his mind. Farmer McGregor, a kindly man with a perpetually sun-weathered face and a twinkle in his eye, grew the plumpest, juiciest carrots Benny had ever tasted. They were sweet and crunchy, and the bright orange stained Benny's paws after every feast. He reached the carrot patch, a vibrant green sea stretching towards the horizon. Farmer McGregor was already there, humming a tuneless melody as he pulled the vegetables from the earth. The air was thick with the earthy scent of freshly turned soil. "Morning, Farmer McGregor," Benny shouted, skidding to a halt. The farmer straightened up, wiping his brow with a red handkerchief. "Well, hello there, Benny. You're up bright and early." He smiled, revealing a gap between his teeth. "Ready for your carrot fix, are you?" Benny's nose twitched. "Oh, yes, sir. I can hardly wait." He bounced on the balls of his feet, his excitement bubbling over. He knew Farmer McGregor usually saved the biggest, juiciest carrots just for him. He envisioned the satisfying crunch, the burst of sweetness on his tongue, the orange stain on his whiskers. It was almost too much to bear. Farmer McGregor chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Patience, Benny, patience. Let me just get these bundled up for market." He gestured to a large pile of carrots, tied neatly with twine. "Then we'll find you a special one, just for you." Benny's ears drooped slightly. The market. That meant other people would be getting carrots too. Carrots that could have been his. He watched, his stomach rumbling, as Farmer McGregor carefully loaded the bundles into his wheelbarrow. Each carrot seemed to mock him with its vibrant orange hue. The weight was excruciating. The anticipation was a physical ache. He needed a carrot, and he needed it now. An idea, reckless and impulsive as always, began to form in his furry little head. Tilly's warning. Benny bounced on the balls of his feet, his nose twitching as he hurried along the overgrown path. Carrots. He could almost taste their sweet, earthy crunch. Farmer McGregor had been particularly generous this year, leaving a whole patch untended on the far side of the barn. Benny was determined to make the most of it. He nearly tripped over Tilly, who was inching her way across the path, her shell gleaming in the dappled sunlight. "Benny dear, such a rush. You'll exhaust yourself before you even reach the carrot patch." Benny skidded to a halt. "Tilly, sorry, didn't see you there. Just really excited for those carrots." Tilly blinked slowly, her wrinkled neck extending as she looked up at him. "Ah, yes, the carrots. A generous gift, indeed. But remember, dear, even the sweetest things lose their flavor if consumed in excess." Benny shifted his weight impatiently. "I know, Tilly, I know. Everything in moderation, right? But these are McGregor's carrots. Who knows when we'll get another chance like this?" He pictured the orange bounty, glistening with morning dew. He could practically feel the satisfying snap as he bit into one. Tilly sighed a soft, wheezing sound. "Moderation is not merely a saying, Benny. It is a principle. Too many carrots can, well, it can turn you quite orange, you know, and give you the stomach rumbles. I've seen it happen." Benny snorted, a puff of white escaping his nose. "Orange? Tilly, you're pulling my whiskers." Besides, a little orange wouldn't hurt. Might make me look distinguished. He puffed out his chest, trying to imagine himself with a sophisticated, carrot-tinged hue. Tilly remained unmoved. Distinguished discomfort, perhaps. Remember young Pipkin last spring? He ate so many dandelions, he turned quite green, and spent the next week hiding under a bush, lamenting his verdant complexion. Benny tapped his foot. The image of Pipkin flashed in his mind, a brief flicker of unease. But the lure of the carrots was too strong. Look, Tilly, I appreciate the advice. Really, but I'm starving, and those carrots are calling my name. Maybe I'll only eat a few. Promise. He crossed his paws for emphasis, though his fingers twitched with anticipation. Tilly watched him, her ancient eyes filled with a knowing sadness. Promises are easily made, Benny, especially when carrots are involved. Just be mindful. Your body will tell you when enough is enough. Listen to it. Benny gave a non-committal nod, already halfway down the path. Will do, Tilly. See you later. He left Tilly in a cloud of dust, her warning already fading into the background noise of his carrot-fueled obsession. The image of orange, crunchy goodness filled his mind, blotting out any lingering sense of caution. He was going to eat every carrot he could get his paws on. Tilly's words were a distant hum, a forgotten melody in the symphony of his craving. The giant carrot patch. The air thickened with the sweet, earthy scent of damp soil, and something else, something sharp and vegetal. Benny sniffed, a dog catching a scent. Carrots, he declared, his voice a little too loud in the unnatural quiet of the woods. Tilly, ever cautious, tugged at his sleeve. Benny, remember what I said? Don't go running off. We need to stay together. But Benny was already gone, or at least his attention was. His eyes, usually glazed with a dull indifference, shone with an almost manic gleam. He pushed through a screen of thorny bushes, ignoring Tilly's protesting yelp as a branch snapped back and stung her cheek. And then he saw it. It wasn't a garden. It wasn't even a field. It was a sprawling, undulating sea of carrot tops, stretching as far as the eye could see. The vibrant green fronds swayed gently in the breeze, hiding the orange treasures beneath. Carrots the size of a man's arm, if the exposed tips were anything to go by. Benny stood frozen for a moment, speechless. He'd never seen anything like it. It was a miracle sent just for him. Benny, what is it? Tilly called, finally managing to push her way through the bushes. Her voice was sharp with apprehension. He didn't answer. He couldn't. He was already wading into the carrot patch, the thick foliage brushing against his legs. He grabbed the nearest carrot top, pulling with a grunt. The earth gave way with a wet sucking sound, and a massive orange root emerged, thick and heavy in his hand. It was bigger than his forearm. Benny, stop. We don't know where these came from. They could be poisoned or something. Tilly's voice was tight with worry. She remained at the edge of the patch, her face pale. He heard her, but the words were distant, muffled. All he could focus on was the carrot. He brushed off the clinging dirt, the earthy smell filling his nostrils. He took a bite. The crunch was deafening in the silence. The juice exploded in his mouth, sweet and slightly peppery. He closed his eyes, savoring the taste. He hadn't tasted anything so good in, well, he couldn't remember when. Benny. Tilly's voice was laced with panic now. Please, we have to go. He ignored her. He took another bite, bigger this time. The carrot was crisp and firm, the sweetness overwhelming. He ate with a savage hunger, tearing chunks off with his teeth, juice dribbling down his chin. He was oblivious to everything except the carrot. The world had shrunk to the size of the root in his hands. Tilly watched him, her fear growing with each bite. She knew that look in his eyes. It was the same look he had when he got that settlement money after the accident. The look of someone consumed by a single, all-consuming desire. A desire that blotted out everything else. He finished the first carrot and, without pause, grabbed another. And then another. He ate with a frantic energy, stuffing his face until his cheeks bulged. He was a machine, driven by an insatiable hunger. The once pristine carrot patch was now littered with discarded tops and half-eaten roots. Tilly took a step back, her hand reaching for the pistol tucked into the waistband of her jeans. This wasn't just about carrots anymore. This was about control. And Benny was losing it fast. A tummy rumble. It began as a fleeting flutter, like the brush of a moth's wing against his innards. Benny dismissed it, fishing for another carrot stick from the overflowing bag beside him. The snap echoed in the hushed car. He crunched heartily, eyes glued to the ribbon of highway, unspooling ahead. Hours behind the wheel, fueled by tepid coffee and a nameless agitation. The flutter intensified, becoming an insistent poke. He fidgeted. Probably the coffee, he reasoned, grabbing another orange root. Halfway through, the poke transformed into a definite shove. A low growl, like distant artillery fire, resonated within him. Great, he muttered, easing his belt. That gas station gut bomb wasn't such a great idea. Marlene stirred beside him, lost in slumber. He froze, praying she wouldn't rouse. The last thing he wanted was her interrogation regarding their destination, his breakneck speed, and his insatiable carrot consumption. The growling escalated, now a demanding roar. It felt like a trapped Wolverine trying to claw its way free. He gripped the wheel, knuckles bone-white. A sheen of sweat slicked his brow. Pressure mounted, a throbbing ache blooming across his abdomen. He instinctively reached for another carrot, then hesitated. What was he doing? He stared at the vibrant orange stick, his appetite abruptly vanishing. He flung it back into the bag. All right, he whispered to his rebellious digestive system. Message received. Overindulgence, plain and simple. He hadn't even been genuinely hungry. Nerves, perhaps. Or maybe the carrots themselves, their sickly sweet taste offering a strange solace in this crumbling situation. He glanced at Marlene, still deeply asleep. He had to stop. He couldn't continue like this. The weight of his choices, the enormity of the situation, crashed down on him with the same force as the churning in his stomach. He was running, an accomplice to a woman fleeing a murder scene, and all he could focus on was gorging himself on carrots. He swerved onto the shoulder, the abrupt halt yanking Marlene awake. She blinked, disoriented. What's wrong? She murmured, rubbing her eyes. Benny groaned, clutching his middle. I think something I ate disagreed with me. He choked out, the Wolverine within now launching a full-scale assault. He needed a restroom, urgently. The consequences of his actions, both monumental and minor, were finally bearing down on him. Distress and regret. The first pang felt like a white-hot blade carving through his core. Benny gasped, his grip on the wheel tightening until his fingers ached. Just indigestion, he croaked, a flimsy reassurance in the silent car. That gas station chili dog had seemed harmless enough going down. Now his gut was a battleground. Another spike of agony, fiercer than the last, sent him reeling. He bent low, forehead pressed to the cool glass of the windshield, the blurred halos of streetlights painting dizzying patterns. He had to get home. Each minor imperfection in the road surface sent a fresh wave of torment through him. He hissed, his breath ragged and shallow. A furtive glance in the rearview mirror revealed only impenetrable blackness. Marlene was history, probably nearing Harrisburg, already counting her ill-gotten gains. His ill-gotten gains, actually. He swerved to the shoulder, tires protesting with a shriek. He lurched out of the car, clutching at his midsection like a lifeline. He fought to stand upright, but a searing internal fire bent him double. It felt like something monstrous was trying to rip its way free. He shuffled from foot to foot, a grotesque parody of a dance, radiating misery. He pressed hard against his stomach, willing the inferno to subside, but it only intensified. A strangled sound escaped him. Tilly. Damn it all, Tilly. Her face swam into focus, her brow furrowed with concern, the endless stream of her well-meaning cautions. Benny, that woman's nothing but trouble. Steer clear. He dismissed her, accused her of envy. Envy. He'd been so foolishly, desperately captivated by Marlene's, what was it exactly? Charm? Deceit? Naivete? Regret bloomed, a sickly, metallic taste at the back of his throat, almost as vile as the burning torment tearing through him. He should have listened. He should have been home, watching the ball game with Tilly, savoring her meatloaf. Instead, he was stranded here on the edge of nowhere, his guts aflame, complicit in who knew what. He groped for his phone, his hands trembling so violently he could barely hold on to it. Who could even call? Tilly? And say what? Remember all your warnings about Marlene? Turns out you were right, and now I'm about to expire from a chili dog-induced apocalypse. Fancy a rescue mission. He snapped the phone shut. No, he couldn't face her. Not now. He'd almost prefer to meet his end on this desolate roadside. He drew in a long, shaky breath, forcing himself to think. He needed to get back behind the wheel, get home. He could find something to ease the pain. Pretend the night hadn't happened. But even as the thought formed, he knew it was a delusion. He was in too deep, and the chili dog, he had a sinking feeling, was the least of his worries. Tilly's rescue. Benny cradled his midsection, the burger a greasy boulder churning in a reservoir of self-reproach. Foolishness, pure and simple. Tilly, ever the oracle with her face etched by sun and time, had cautioned him about that roadside dive. "Mark my words, Benny," she'd murmured, her voice a soft counterpoint to the henhouse chorus. "That's not wholesome fare. It'll weigh on you like a guilty conscience." Now, hunched over on Highway 16's gritty verge, enlightenment dawned. He should have heeded her. Always should have listened. A long shadow stretched over him. He groaned, his gaze fixed on the asphalt. "Benny? Goodness gracious, what's befallen you?" The familiar voice, steeped in worry and a touch of exasperation, sliced through his misery like a hot knife. He eked out a feeble, "Tilly?" She knelt, her weathered hand a soothing balm on his burning brow. "You look like you wrestled a bobcat and lost. What did you ingest, Benny? Please don't say that eatery." He could only nod, a new wave of queasiness threatening to capsize him. Tilly sighed, a sound akin to brittle leaves skittering across the ground. "I forewarned you, didn't I? You're incorrigible." But her tone held no real censure, merely a resigned fondness. All right. Let's get you upright. Think you can manage." He attempted to rise, but a searing jolt ripped through him, sending him back to earth. "Can't. Feels like I swallowed angry bees." Tilly's lips thinned in assessment. "Fine then. Crawl a spell." He looked up, bewildered. "Crawl where?" She gestured towards a field shimmering emerald under the afternoon sun, just beyond the rusty barbs of the fence. "The clover. Remember what I told you about the clover patch?" He struggled to dredge up the memory. Tilly possessed a remedy for every ailment, a whispered lore gleaned from the land itself. Something about clover, something about... "It'll soothe your insides," she clarified, sensing his confusion. "Draw out the bad humors. Just trust me, Benny, as you should have done earlier." He hesitated, the pain a relentless undertow, dragging him down. What choice did he have? He began to crawl, the loose gravel a cruel massage against his knees. Tilly kept pace, her hand hovering nearby, her presence a guiding star in his personal abyss. The sweet, earthy perfume of clover filled his lungs as he reached the field's edge. A verdant expanse, speckled with tiny white and roseate blooms. Tilly helped him settle down, his cheek nestled against the fragrant carpet. "Just breathe deep, Benny," she advised. "Let the earth absorb it all." He closed his eyes, the agony still potent, now laced with an unexpected serenity. The clover, cool and moist against his skin, seemed to pulse with a quiet, vital energy. He imagined the blossoms sipping at the poison, each delicate petal taking its due. He recalled Tilly's gentle smile, the laugh lines fanning out from her eyes. A smile he had taken for granted. He had taken everything for granted. He pictured Marlene, her barbed words and cooler demeanor. He reflected upon past choices, roads he had mistakenly wandered down. And he couldn't help but wonder if a field of clover could mend more than just a poison gut. The healing clover. Benny clutched his stomach, the sour bile rising in his throat. 6 hot dogs, he groaned, the words a low, self-deprecating rumble. 6 chili-smothered, greasy, gas station hot dogs. What was I thinking? Regret gnawed at him, sharper even than the cramps. He was an idiot, a monumentally stupid, self-destructive idiot. He was sprawled on the cracked vinyl of the back porch, the rusty springs digging into his spine. The afternoon sun beat down, making the sickness worse. He squeezed his eyes shut, picturing Darla's face, the hurt, the anger, the utter contempt. He deserved it all. Maybe this gut-wrenching pain was some kind of cosmic justice. He heard a buzzing, a fat bumblebee lumbering around the scraggly patch of clover growing between the porch planks. He watched it, mesmerized by its clumsy flight, as it landed on a plant. Clover. He remembered something his grandmother used to say, something about clover tea, settling an upset stomach. It sounded ridiculous, a desperate remedy for a desperate situation. But what did he have to lose? He reached out a trembling hand and plucked a 3-leaf clover. It felt cool and strangely smooth against his skin. He hesitated, the memory of those hot dogs a vivid, nauseating reminder. He brought the clover to his nose. It smelled faintly grassy, almost sweet. He chewed it slowly, cautiously. The taste surprised him. It wasn't bitter or medicinal like he expected. It was fresh, green, with a hint of lemon. He chewed another, and another. The bumblebee, apparently unfazed, buzzed around his head. After about 5 minutes, Benny noticed something. The sharp, stabbing pain in his stomach had dulled to a manageable ache. The nausea hadn't disappeared completely, but it wasn't threatening to overwhelm him anymore. He sat up a little straighter, his face no longer contorted in agony. He chewed another clover, savoring the taste. It was a tiny act of rebellion, a small moment of peace in the chaos of his life. Maybe, just maybe, there's still a way to find some kind of balance. Maybe, like the clover, even something small and overlooked could offer a little bit of healing. The thought gave him a sliver of hope, a fragile green shoot pushing through the cracked earth of his despair. A lesson learned. A guttural groan ripped from Benny's throat, a sound that rattled the cramped kitchen. He was bent double, hands clamped to his midsection as if battling a miniature supernova. The cloying aroma of fried onions and discount francs hung in the air, a cruel reminder of his earlier excess. "Consider this a lesson," Tilly remarked, though the usual tartness was absent from her tone. She knelt, concern etching lines on her forehead. "Hey, Benny, you're not a bottomless pit." I know," he wheezed, each syllable a laborious undertaking. A lapse, a moment of pure idiocy. His eyes squeezed shut, replaying the image of that glistening mountain of processed meat under the harsh fluorescent light. It seemed ages ago, a distant memory from before the vice grip on his intestines. Tilly sighed, extracting a crumpled paper sack from her apron. "Here," she offered. "Chew on these. Clover. Good for settling things." Benny eyed the offering with suspicion. "Clover? The lawn variety?" "Precisely," Tilly said, a ghost of a smile gracing her lips. "Don't dismiss it. My grandma swore it quelled any disturbance." He cautiously nibbled a few of the dry blossoms. The taste proved surprisingly delicate, faintly sweet and earthy. Within moments, a tentative relief began to spread through him. The pain's sharp edges softened, leaving a persistent, dull ache. "Huh," he mumbled, surprised. "It's actually working." "See," Tilly said, rising to her feet. Grandma usually knew her remedies. She guided him towards a chair, her touch uncharacteristically gentle. "Now listen, Benny. This isn't just about indigestion. It's about showing some respect. For your body, and frankly, for yourself." He looked up, his face ashen. In her eyes, he saw genuine worry, not just annoyance. He'd been so lost in his own discomfort, his own self-pity, that he'd missed it. "You're right," he admitted, his voice a raspy whisper. "I haven't been respecting much of anything lately." "You're hurting," Tilly said softly. "I get it. But punishing yourself with a junk food marathon isn't the answer. It won't bring you any peace." He nodded, the truth of her words landing with a sobering thud. He had been using food, anger, anything at hand to dull the ache inside. But it was backfiring. It was only amplifying the discomfort. "Tilly," he said, his voice gaining a touch of strength. "I promise. I'm going to do better. Starting now. No more hot dog escapades." I might even brave one of those green concoctions you're always pushing. Tilly chuckled. Don't get carried away, but I appreciate the sentiment. She gave his shoulder a light clap. Just take it slow. One decent meal at a time. He smiled, a genuine smile flickering across his face, the first in what felt like forever. Thanks, Tilly, he said. For everything. He looked at her, truly saw her, not just as the eccentric neighbor with a permanent pot of something simmering, but as a friend, a remarkably astute and compassionate friend. He suddenly appreciated the worth of her steadfast presence, her understated wisdom in his turbulent existence. He had a long way to go, and maybe, just maybe, he was finally receptive. Happily ever after in Sunny Acres. The sun beat down on Sunny Acres, but a gentle breeze rustled through the rows of leafy greens, offering a small measure of relief. Benny, still a little green around the gills, trailed after Tilly. He'd managed to keep down the ginger tea she'd brewed, a concoction that smelled suspiciously of pond scum but tasted surprisingly bearable. Feeling any better, Slowpoke? Tilly called back, her voice light. She was already halfway to a patch of vibrantly orange carrots. Benny nodded cautiously. Yeah, much. Thanks, Tilly. That stuff was potent. He watched as she effortlessly pulled a carrot from the earth, brushing off the dirt with a practiced hand. She took a bite, the crunch echoing in the quiet field. See? Delicious and nutritious. Remember what I said, Benny. Everything in moderation. Benny swallowed, remembering the mountain of hot dogs he'd greedily devoured. The memory alone sent a faint wave of nausea through him. Yeah, I think I learned my lesson. Hot dogs are evil. Tilly chuckled. Not evil, just best enjoyed sparingly. She offered him the carrot. Want a bite? He hesitated, then took it. The sweetness surprised him, a refreshing contrast to the memory of greasy processed meat. He chewed slowly, actually tasting it. Not bad, he admitted. Actually, it's pretty good. They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring Sunny Acres. Benny cautiously sampled other offerings. A handful of juicy strawberries, a crisp cucumber slice, even a sprig of surprisingly flavorful parsley. He discovered that real food, grown in the earth, could be enjoyable. He watched Tilly carefully, mimicking her actions, learning to appreciate the textures and tastes he'd previously ignored in his rush to consume as much processed junk as possible. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, they found themselves near a small orchard. Apple trees, heavy with fruit, lined the path. Want to grab a couple for the road? Tilly asked, reaching for a bright red apple. Benny nodded, but instead of immediately stuffing his face, he carefully selected a single, perfect apple. He held it in his hand, turning it over, admiring its smooth skin and vibrant color. You know, he said, a genuine smile spreading across his face, this place, it's actually kind of nice. Tilly grinned. Told ya. And you're kind of nice too, Benny. Even if you do have the eating habits of a raccoon raiding a dumpster. He laughed, a real laugh, not the forced, uncomfortable chuckle he'd been using earlier. Hey, I'm trying to reform. Raccoons are out. Sensible eating is in. They walked back towards the farm stand, side by side, the setting sun casting long shadows behind them. Benny felt good, not just physically but mentally. He still had a long way to go, but he knew he was on the right path. And he knew he had a friend in Tilly, someone who would help him stay on that path, even when the lure of the hot dog stand was strong. He glanced at her, her face glowing in the fading light. Maybe, just maybe, Sunny Acres could be a fresh start for both of them.